So let me ask, did you know Brian Pillman? Did you have a relationship with him? I know he was an Ohio guy, a Cincinnati guy. How did the whole Brian Pillman Memorial come to be? Because that was a very big deal for many years.
Yeah, 4 years we had it. Actually, Brian and I actually never met before. He got. I was on the road
Hmm.
when he was in the wrestling business, and then when I came back to Cincinnati, I went to work for John Perillo, training bodybuilders, right?
Hmm.
And Pillman was connected with a couple of the bodybuilders, so that's how we hooked up at Perillo's, right? And then when I had the gym, he sent one of the kids from over to train with me.
Hmm.
So we got a connection that way. And then when he after the car wreck, and he was trying to do something with a bad leg, right?
Hmm.
He came over and worked out with some of my kids in the ring, and you know it was frustrating to watch because a young guy who was making his living at the wrestling business, and then all of a sudden, he's trying to figure a way. And I know that one time I told him he was so frustrated. I said, you can't just continue landing on your good leg, or it's not going to be a good leg. You're going to end
Hmm.
up with two bad legs. There's got to be another way to do this. But yeah, Brian was a complex. I didn't know him well, you
Hmm.
know, but from the best I can tell, he was quite a complex figure.
Is very well known around the Cincinnati area. A lot of people in that area that were wrestlers always tend to say that, Brian would always lend a helping hand.
Yeah, helping hand. One of the things I used to hear about is if I'd be in the gym and said Pillman was in town this weekend, he got in a fight with some guy at such and such a club across the river, meeting over in northern Kentucky. So that was, that was the way I kept track of him. I know when he was in town and when he wasn't.
How did the memorial shows come to be? Whose idea was it, and how complex was that to put together?
Man, it was like a small WrestleMania, I guess you'd call.
Hmm.
I've been to one Mania, the one in Toronto, the first one in Toronto, but it was, well, the thing of it was Brian was a local guy, right?
Hmm.
Cincinnati boy. And it just thought the whole thing was let's have a small benefit show,
Hmm.
which grew into a large benefit show, obviously. With no thought of it going more than a 1 year, right? And so it started by, just, getting the guys from this company and then the WWE company. And then, well, somebody had mentioned to me, well, I'll tell you who it was actually. Dave Meltzer said, now, if you get ECW, you'll have the trifecta. And I thought, why not? Right? First of all, Al Snow, who was with uh, ECW at the time, whereas Wrestling Some was for ECW, was just up the road in Lima, had his school, 200 miles north of me. And also Chris Candido, who I knew from Smoky Mountain, and Tammy were working in, ECW at the time.
Hmm.
So I got in touch with Chris and he set it up. And I said, yes, we did that. So we had the three major companies, all locked in for that first show. The first show was in the Norwood High School, junior high school uh, gymnasium, which seated about 1,200 people. And we had standing room only. I mean, we didn't expect what we got, right? It
Hmm.
was drizzling rain. And somebody came to me and said, come out here and look. I said, look at what? Just come with me, he said. And there were people lined up around the building in the rain to get in to get their picture. Well, they were as you can see your picture taken with Steve Austin, Chris Benoit, Al Snow, Chris. Jericho, et cetera, et cetera. So, damn, I mean, it was crazy. We had over 1,300 people in a 1,200 seat gym, basically, and it was a great success. Uh, so the crazy thought is, should we do another one?
Hmm.
Yeah, let's do another one, right? Obviously, I was punchy, half asleep when I came up with that idea. But so we went for the second year to Cincinnati Garden to see if they would get involved, and they happily did. And the hope there was Austin was the top dog,
Hmm.
in WWF at the time, and Flair was the top dog in WCW, right? Okay, and we wanted to have them both, and we just never worked out because Steve couldn't make the trip, but we had Flair and Steamboat, which was an iconic pairing there. So it just it took on a life of its own. It was, I mean, by the second year, I honestly had guys on the independents offering to pay me to be on the show. Seriously, no,
Yeah.
they would pay to be on the damn show. And I had a couple stars that called, I mean, we had the roster fill, we had to, we couldn't put any more people in. We it the thing it the original was just going to be run like a regular show, right?
Hmm.
The second, third, and the fourth were all started at Photos with the Stars started at noon the day of the show.
Hmm.
And then the first matches, what we call the warm up, and it really wasn't. It was the top guys from OVW and the top guys from HWA, right?
Hmm.
And that started at 5:30. Boom. 7 o'clock, we took a short break, come back and started the main show, right?
Hmm.
And during this, we auctioned off in different years D'Lo's vest, his chest protector that he wore, Benoit's boots, woman's evening gown, JR's Stetson, on, all this. And this thing went on. Nobody went home early. It was amazing. They showed up early, and we didn't close. We weren't out of there until 11 o'clock, 11:30 in the evening, right? With all the matches and the hullabaloo, the auction going on in between the matches.
Hmm.
And like I say, it just took on a life all its own, for Christ's sake. And we couldn't fit everybody in. And then the second and third year, we added the Mark Curtis, Brian Hildebrand, call him whatever you like. For those who don't know, Mark was a referee in WCW and dearly beloved by so many of the guys, myself being one of those guys, a dear friend. And what a great person he was. And a lot of his friends, we wanted to honor him. So we had a 1 day training camp,
Hmm.
right? Uh, Malenko, Guerrero, Benoit, myself, Shark Boy. I mean, it was crazy, right? What
Hmm.
we had going on. But we did that on like the day before the Pillman show, right?
Hmm.
So, and the crazy thing, these guys, nobody said, "Where's my money?"
Hmm.
Right? And these guys were given their day off to help out, and it became just a crazy thing. Now, preparing for it, I had a committee basically. Somebody's handling, setting up the drivers and the limos, right, to pick guys up at the airport, shuttle them back and forth, setting up with gyms where they can go work out near the
Hmm.
hotel, right, for free, right. So we'd have a meeting on Monday evenings. Uh, excuse me. We didn't train on Mondays. So we'd have a meeting of the committee, which myself and 9 other people,
Hmm.
and once a week we'd get together, and like I say, this was like 8 months before the show, we start all this craziness. But it just over the 4 years we were able to donate $120,000 to the Brian Pillman Foundation. So
That's a lot of money, especially back then.
yes, a lot of work too, my man. Believe me, a lot. I mean, it was. And now the wrestler showed up. We picked him up at the airport. Hotel was there. If they needed, we had volunteers to drive. If they wanted to go to the gym, needed to go to shop for something, needed aspirin. So somebody was there to take them or go for them. When they got when the day of the show,
Hmm.
when they got to the building, there was a buffet table set up. We had a same caterer all 4 years, and that buffet table was full from the time the guys got there till the time it became crazy. It's like the last year, Melody brought in some of the kids from the neighborhood and fed them. There's not enough food here for the boys, right? I mean, it was special. I
Hmm.
don't know how to say it any other way. That first night was just a whole nother ball game with Steve Austin showing up to talk and choked up, and Benoit and Jericho had a mother of a match. They really
Hmm.
did. In fact, Terry Taylor at this time was working with WCW, right? And Terry came to that first show, and he and I were up in the rafters watching. And he said, "Damn," he said, "these guys work harder for you for nothing than they work for us when they get paid, for Christ's sake." Right? But it wasn't like ECW versus WCW versus WWF. It wasn't meant to be, but it kind of underneath everything, it was,
Hmm.
well, I can top that, right?
Hmm.
Well, uh, Benoit and Jericho asked me at the first year, I said, "What do you want us to do?" I said, "I want you guys, what do you want? Whatever you want to do, you give us that kind of match. Give us the match that you're going to have the most fun doing, and you know what gets you there." And they tore it up. I mean, they did. Well, Benoit would have been in the main event on the fourth show if it hadn't been for his neck.
Hmm.
The first year it was he and Jericho. The second year at the Garden, uh, it was who was Mysterio and Conan against Benoit and Malenko in tag match. That was the main event. The third year was the historical Regal versus Benoit, which is now used by trainers as a teaching match. I mean,
Hmm.
sincerely. Uh, and then, of course, as I watched that match the third year, I'm already year four, Benoit Regal, the return, without
Hmm.
a frigging question. It was a classic, brother. I mean, you I want to talk about that a little bit because Tom Pritchard used it as a training tool. I use it as a training tool. To A few years ago, they had a special party here at the Dr. Tom and Kane's Glenn Jacobs training school. They had a surprise party for Bobby Eaton, right? And
Hmm.
Steve Regal came, and and when he said, and thank you for that. I said, "Man, thank you because you gave me a training match for the ages, for Christ's sake." Uh, it was we had that night we had over 2,000 people. That was the third year. We had like 2,200 people, and it was jammed wall to wall. If you get a chance to watch it, they started wrestling. I mean, you've got to realize the talent that was on these shows, right? So everything everything was going on, and well, we had Raven and Just Incredible, right? The
Hmm.
ECW title match. Funny story about that is I forget which one of them got juice, right? And when Paul Lee saw that, he lost his freaking mind. You got juice at a benefit show? And and Raven said, "Do you want to try to follow Benoit and Regal?" Right? Because Chris had Nancy was sick, and
Hmm.
Chris had said, "Can you get me on early? I've already checked about a plane. I can get out here early and go home." I said, "I'll get you. We'll get you on early." So anyway, uh, that building was just jammed full. The dressing rooms were down in the basement, right on the
Hmm.
down in the basement. If you watch it on tape and turn the volume up, you'll hear a couple idiots in the back saying, "Boring, boring," right? Uh, After we bloodied them up a bit, they didn't say that anymore. No, I'm kidding. I'm teasing about that. Uh, but it was a perfect match because
Hmm.
it started slow, started with a build, and you could feel the crowd. If
Hmm.
you almost have to have been, to understand what I'm trying to tell you, right? But I started back by the sound system, right? I was down in front, squatting down in front of the big speakers and stuff. I ended up at ringside. On the video, I pop up on the apron at the end of this thing. I wanted to be in. I mean, I was sold, brother. I talk about marking out. I was, uh, and they had that whole building just rocking.
Hmm.
And it was a wrestling match. It was a competition, two gladiators in battle. That's all I could. But here's the crazy thing. I said the dressing rooms were in the basement, right?
Hmm.
The guys down. When you know something's going to pop on a big finish, when you know what's coming, right? You you feel it. You see it coming, and you know, yeah, okay, they've got these people hooked. Now they're going to take them for that ride.
Hmm.
The guys were coming up out of the damn basement. They could hear the crowd building, right? And
Hmm.
pushing, shoving each other to get a better view of the damn match. This was a talent now. This was not the fan base, right?
Hmm.
And the old man was working his way down the ringside. Yes, damn, they're going to blow the lid off this place. And they did, brother. They blew. Well, Dr. Tom says, I still get chills when I think about that night. I said, I do too.
Hmm.
But we both use it as that match as a training tool. If you haven't seen it, you should. You can buy the whole 20th anniversary, the whole anthology of the four matches at joe-dombrowski.com and prowrestlinglibrary.com, by the way, which has got every match from all four shows. And there was no such thing as somebody on the show you didn't recognize. I mean,
Hmm.
it was the top guys from both companies, for God's sakes. All three companies, I should, excuse me. But yeah, that night, that match was just so damn. And here's the other thing. Regal had been out in the end because of some dependence on drugs and craziness, right? He'd been sent down to the minor leagues basically to get his act together. This was the first time, and I asked him, I said, "Do you mind? Can I send this to Stanford? I want to send it up to the office." But I said, there's nothing wrong with this. This either one of these guys. I mean, there's no, and yeah, and it's just such a special night with that match. I mean, the whole show. We had pitchers from the Cincinnati Reds refereeing matches, and I mean, it was a crazy night period. But that match was the keeper, brother. It was
Hmm.
the keeper.
Now, did you handpick the people, or did you just say, "Hey, this is what we're doing. Who wants to be involved?" When you reached out to like WCW or WWE
Well,
for
a
the
lot of
phone.
a lot of it was guys just saying, "Hey."
Hmm.
The first year, I was grabbing at guys, to be in matches. I was using local indie guys, the better local indie guys, and you know guys from different higher higher level independent matches. And of
Hmm.
course, like I said, we had Benoit and Jericho. Uh, uh, yeah, sure. And of course, with Candido being on the show, uh, you know, uh, his lady was there, and but it was just such a great time. Every one of these shows was special for some reason. I mean,
Hmm.
legit. That second year, we were talking about the Brian Hildebrand uh, Memorial, right, which was the third and fourth year.
Hmm.
Well, the second year was the last time we were all going to get to see Brian at a show. Except those of us who went to Pittsburgh for his Brian Comes Home show there, right? That was the last place we saw him, at least alive, before we went to the funeral. But that was, he was starting to have his problems, right? And his weight was going down. And his wife called me at the gym, and she said, "Old hardhead here won't tell you, but she said we may not be able to get him there." And I said, "Well, tell old hardhead to get his ass in gear, right?" And he's in the background saying, "I'll be there. I'm going to be there." Right
Hmm.
now, he'd lost quite a bit of weight. He was almost under 100. I mean, 100 pounds, right? And so I decided I was going to want to put him in the main event because he loved to work with those. Those were all personal friends of his anyway. Uh, Malenko and Benoit and Guerrero are all tight with Brian as well. But I decided to put him in with Dr. Tom and Terry Taylor in my Legends match, which they got mad because, like, what do you mean Legends? We're not that old. You will be. Anyway, so the crazy thing that night, I had a cruiserweight tournament, right, of my cruiserweights. And Sharp Boy won the tournament. And here comes Road Dog and Foley and these guys out to carry him around on their, I mean, no, all impromptu, right? Everybody
Hmm.
just having a good time. So that was special too. But anyway, so I'm doing the ring announcing on this thing, and I'm out to announce the main event, right? And here comes Brian Hildebrand, who wasn't supposed to referee the main event, right? And I said, "What are you doing out here?" He said, "I'm out here to referee." I said, "Are you going to make it?" He said, "Are you going to stay out here and watch?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" He said, "Well, if I don't, you can help carry me out of here, can't you?" I said, "Yeah, I guess I can do that." Right. And that was, I mean, it was special. Uh, I'm going to be here. I'm going to work my ass off because these
Hmm.
are my guys and this is for somebody special. That was Brian. That was just who Brian was. I mean, I can't say Jericho used to say, he said, "You know what? You can show Mark or Brian, whatever you want to call him, the worst wrestling match you've ever seen in your life, and he'll find something good about it." He said, "I don't doubt it does it. He'll find something good about it." But just, he was a great guy. He truly was. And that was special that night because, uh, to realize what he was doing, in the shape he was in. And like
Hmm.
I say, this was in August, July, late July, early August. I forget exactly the date. And we went to Ross Draper, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh for the uh, Brian Comes Home, right? Because that's where he broke in,
Hmm.
with, yeah, sure, Foley and with Dino Bravo
Hmm.
School. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, and he passed away then, just a couple of months after that Ross Draper show. But yeah, it was special, man. It was
Hmm.
every Dean Malenko announced his retirement at the show number 4,
Hmm.
right? And then it was, I knew like I said, my main event was made. Regal, Benoit, the return. Boom, right there. And of course, then Chris, because of the neck surgery, He was going to be in Cincinnati. He came and rehabbed at at HWA, get ready to go back to work, but he couldn't work. And Regal called me and he said, you know what? He said, I'll do anything you ask. He said, but I can't have that match with anybody else
Hmm.
but Chris Benoit. And so I said, well, my friend, whatever you want to do, you do special referee, whatever. But he said, be there and do, just you tell me what you want me to do, and I will do that for you. Those guys are special, man. They truly were. They
Yeah.
truly were. The great thing about the first year we had the uh, training camp for the slip, with for open to the world. Uh, at the end of the day, we got them up in front of a can. You get up and you could pick any one of the trainers that you want to cut a promo with or on, right? And then you got a copy of that along, with the T-shirt, for the event and that sort of thing. It was those weekends are just, like I say, extremely special. That second year, uh, you know, uh, Mark coming back, to referee that main event. The
Hmm.
third year, the Regal Benoit match, which is still historically talked about for guys. You realize that was voted one of the top five matches in the Observer, and
I,
only a little over 2,000 people saw the damn thing.
I don't doubt it.
But it had that kind of, juice to talk about it and everything that, yeah, and for those listening to us now, if you get a chance to watch the damn thing because it's a great match. It truly is a great, great professional wrestling match. And then the fourth year, Dean announced his retirement.
Hmm.
And it, it just, every show was special. They truly were. And you know what? I was so dog tired at the end of that show every year, but I thought, damn, it's worth every minute of it. The volunteers worked hard, and you wouldn't know the guys were there working for nothing. I mean,
Hmm.
they busted their ass. Everybody worked hard. I always look forward to it. I swear, it was special, and all the things special in the career that I've had. It, those 4 years, those four shows were extremely special as well.
I'm sure that, especially that first one, it had to have been an emotional night overall for everybody involved because they were, paying tribute to their friend.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Well, the little girl from Norwood High School that sang the national anthem the first year sang it every year thereafter, right?
Hmm.
And Norwood, the whole thing in Norwood, that's a municipality, right? In smack dab in the middle of Greater Cincinnati, right, with its own high school system and everything. But we got so much help there because the football coach that was in charge of the junior high school gym, right, had coached Brian. The lady who was athletic director for the city of Norwood had gone to school with Brian and hung out at his house with his sister and the whole thing, right? So
Hmm.
they couldn't do enough to help us out and to make it as good as they could make it. And we didn't know what to expect, but we turned away two or 300 people. Seriously, we could not get them in the gym. And it was just, like I say, every one of those shows were special.
Hmm.
And 66 years I've been doing in this crazy business, those 4 years will stick out just because of those shows, if for no other reason.
Now, was it your idea to record them, or did they want to see the product because, you captured something very special for years?
Oh, you know what? Nobody thought about this until Joe Dombrowski, who I'd
Hmm.
done some, we did the HWA projects with, uh, came to me with the idea, and he said, "I'm going to talk to Brian Jr. and you have a copy of the Pillman
I do.
anthology. Okay.
I do.
Then I mean, there's so many. added to trap special interviews with different guys. I mean, my God, there's over 15 hours of content on the 4 discs. And forget the fact that there's, well, the first, Randy Orton, uh, Cena match was on
Mhm.
the fourth Pillman show. They were both an OVW at the time. So yeah,
Was that their first time locking up, I think?
yeah, that was first recorded match. Yes, absolutely. Well, they mentioned that this past, when they
Hmm.
worked together on Cena's run to the end, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, it was, and like I say, everybody worked their asses off. I mean, they did. There was nobody said, "Well, I'm tired" or "I don't want to work." Right? Everybody busted their hump. So yeah, a lot
How
of
long
fun.
how long after the first one ended did you know that there was going to be another one?
Let's see. The morning after, I was sitting at my desk in the gym at our gym, with my eyes about to bug out of my head. You know how it is when you're tired and you feel like you're in a tunnel looking out at
Hmm.
the. And I said, God, we've got to do this again, right?
Hmm.
And with the thought of having Steve Austin and Flair both, the two top guys from the two top companies, right? Both
Hmm.
there at the same time. And Jericho had, the crazy thing is he had the pass. He was going to, but because they had that cruise that he still does today, right?
Hmm.
And he said, I wanted to be there too because I see Steamboat's coming out. Mark out. I'm a mark for Ricky Steamboat. And all the years later, when they worked together, you
Hmm.
know, I thought Chris is marking out now, or he's in the ring. He's in the ring with the Dragon. But but yeah, it wasn't work. It was
Hmm.
so much fun putting it together. I mean, there were times that you're pounding your head and stuff, but it was worth every minute of it. It was.
And it seemed like the whole city was behind this.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we the day of the show, all the TV stations came out, for interviews, and you know, and everybody helped out. I mean, it was like, yeah, it's kind of like the city got behind it. It was a special deal.
I don't think that something like that has happened since Brian Pillman. Like people gather around and do something like that, and it be such a successful event. It was the first, and I feel like the last of something of that type to ever happen.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. It's the crazy thing is we old beat up guys talk about how times have changed, and somebody's going to say, "Well, you're just jealous because you can't do a 450 splash into a wet sponge like these kids can," and all that craziness. But no, things have changed,
Hmm.
and and the times are different. I understand that too. But yeah, it's uh, well, there's camaraderie in our business that you just can't match elsewhere. And I think from the old school guys, it was because we protected the business as well, right?
Hmm.
And now it's like, oh yeah, it's all show. Okay. But back then it was, what'd you just say? You calling when I do a show? Would you like to go out in the parking lot? Yeah,
Hmm.
that was the big difference. But yeah, uh, the guys seem to always come together, when there's something necessary. Like, well, you read about so and so said $10,000 that so and so is having, health problems and this and that. Yeah, it's all, it's great. The crazy thing, it hasn't necessarily been the promotions or the promoters. It's been
Hmm.
the boys
Yep.
that throw their money together. You know,
Hmm.
that's one
Always.
of that's one of the special pluses about this business, that you can see things that make you so mad, and I don't want to be around this stupid business anymore. And then something like that happens that everybody pulls together and you say, yeah, it's cool.
Absolutely.